Right, today's going to be a nice, great sort of build, and the reason it's going to be a great build is because it's going to be a tutorial build of how to build a computer from start, from scratch, all the way to the end with the results, and also how to overclock your computer after you've done it, and obviously put Windows on and everything like that, which I haven't done in my video before, but I'm going to do it now because everyone cries out for that. So, and I've got all the components here, and first off is obviously this build is about the Thermaltake. It's actually about Thermaltake build, and this is the Versa C23 TG case, and it's got a tempered glass side, and it's a medium size case, and it looks lovely, and it's got RGBs on the front there, RGB on the side there, RGB on that front there, or shall I say RGB on the top there, RGB on the side there, and RGB on the front. And then it's got an expansion bays ready for dual graphics cards if you really want to, and it's got room for 120 at the back, 240 at the top and 240 at the front for radiator or AIO water cooling or even custom cooling. But we also need to find out how well it breathes, so I'm not going to just jump into building this whole computer and then in this video I'm going to put Windows 10 on and go through the results and that. That's going to be in the second video. This video is purely about putting everything together and talk about the components, why I'm using them in there, and if you're going to be following this video, links in the description down below where you're going to be able to find out what you can use. If I'm using Crucial, you can use Corsair, you can use Team G, you can use Gelid, you could use any sort of RAM that's equivalent to what I'm using. SSDs just the same, Samsung Pro, Evo and all that sort of stuff, and I'm using Toshiba. RGBs, you can change your RGBs around. I've got different strips. You can use Fantech ones if you really want to, or even Thermaltake's RGB fans, which I'm going to be using in this water cooling. And this is for Mystic Light because it's got the 4 holes that are going to be on the motherboard. But this is the new motherboard by MSI, which is the AC version. So you've got Wi-Fi that's already connected in there. This is a Wi-Fi enabled computer. It's going to be sick. 700 watts of power as well to power everything. And I'm using a Core i5. What one am I using? 8600K, and the K stands for overclocking. You can get non-overclockable ones if you want to, but as the motherboard from Intel, they basically just made the Z370 and that's it. So you can buy the cheapest CPU and still run with it, and it can be non-overclockable, which doesn't make sense to me. I think that's a bit of a flaw in the design, or it doesn't work. If you're going to buy a motherboard at the top of the range, then you should have top of range CPUs like at 8600K or 8700K. Anyway, so let's just get on. Basically got a BeQuiet power supply there, 700 watts of power, and that's going to be more than enough to obviously overclock that. Normally if I was going to buy one, I'd probably go a little bit higher, like at 800, 850, depending on how much you're going to overclock to. Now I'm going to try and overclock to the max, but I'm trying to keep the price down as well, because obviously it's quite expensive, but there is expensive because it's really good, and it's a known brand, and everyone uses BeQuiet, or they use Corsair products. It's simple like that. Using the MSI, what one am I using? The Z370 gaming motherboard. Now this is the Carbon AC one, which has got Wi-Fi enabled in it, or you've got a Wi-Fi card you can put in it. Using the GTX 970 graphics card because I like to match up all my results for the whole year. So I have got results with 1080s, 1070s, 1060s, 1050s and 1050 Ti's, but I want, when I'm doing stuff like this, and I'm going to be very serious of how I want to see heat distribution in the case and how well it does, because this is a Thermaltake build, but it's basically, instead of me doing an actual just build, I thought I'd do a tutorial to show you how to build a computer like this for yourself and from start to scratch. So that's what I'm doing, but this is about Thermaltake. So if you want a case, you can get this case as well, link in the description down below about all these products. Anyway, I'm using 16 or 32 gigs of RAM, DDR4, clocked at 2600 megahertz, Toshiba SSD. It's got read and write speeds of 550 or 560 megabits per second, or megabytes per second I should say. And then I'm using AKASA's RGB magnetic strips, which in this case is magnetic, so it should go really well. And then obviously ID overclocked, which is a AIO water cooling all-in-one with RGB fans and an RGB pump that goes onto the CPU, and it should be keeping this stuff cool. But anyway, this is going to be part 1, and then part 2 is just going to be me talking about performance, well actually running through how to run Windows 10 and how to get the free Windows 10 on your computer, and then putting all this stuff on there, all your apps and stuff, and where you should have it and where you shouldn't have it, how much space you need to do things in case you want to use it as a HD PC or you want to use it as a workstation, a gaming PC, or I don't know, you want to use it for a music system. I don't know what you want to use it for. Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think about it. But anyway, now onto the build. So first off, I'm going to start off with the motherboard. So I'm going to clear everything away, and it's just going to be cut screen to cut screen to cut screen, so it makes it nice and simple for you. First things first, figure out your orientation, how you want the power, the AIO radiator to go. Now I've got the actual tubing going in towards the front of the case rather towards the back, because I think it's a lot more easy and it'll be more airflow and it makes more sense. Now I've put a fan on this way because this is where my cable is going to be, so I can tuck it in towards the back of the case so it looks nice for cable management. So start to put your screws in. And this is with any AIO you want to do it with. And then you just screw them all in. You don't have to screw them in too tight, you just screw them in so they're nice and flat and run flush with the actual side of the fan. No matter what AIO or what fans you're doing, that's all you need to do. Any more tension on that, you can break the tabs off on the side and then it's a problem. Now all you have to do is do exactly the same, cables towards the back if you're doing nice cable management, and do exactly the same on vice versa. Is to get your bracket, and it's your retention bracket, and if you're using 1151 or AMD or AM3 or AM4 or 266, then you've got to basically find which holes are for you to go in, just by reading the manual. But I'm using 1151 socket, so these are my holes here. So it runs flat like so. And then you're going to put the motherboard on top. Well, actually, the motherboard, this is going to go underneath the motherboard. Same thing, but anyway. So bang, here comes the motherboard. Take it out of its static bag. Anti-static bag, I should say. Open it very carefully without damaging any modules in there or any resistors. Just place it on the top. Wow, lovely motherboard this is. Now you can get the retention bracket and place it to the back. Now I'm just going to hold my motherboard in one hand like so I don't bend anything. And where you can see there's 3 screw holes, this is where you line this up with your retention bracket. And there you go, it fits in nicely. If you put it in the wrong way around, it doesn't fit too nicely. And then put it back onto the flat surface. Then add your knuckle screws over the top to keep the retention bracket screwed down and secured. Makes it quicker. So that side of the retention bracket is secured. Now we're going to populate the memory in. So I have 4 modules. Now if you've only got 2, then you just look at the side here where it says DIMM 1, DIMM 2, DIMM 1, DIMM 2, and basically you put the first DIMM in if you've only got 2 RAM sticks, and make sure that it's firmly pressed down, but don't wobble it because you could snap it. And then if, as I'm saying, if you've only got 2 modules, then it would be these 2 gaps here. But I've got 4, so I'll populate all 4 of them. Just make sure they're all nice and tight, and then that's done. Now the next thing to do is pop the CPU in. Leave the bracket over the top because it will come off itself. Now I think I did mention that I'm using Coffee Lake as well. So this is new architecture from Intel. Make sure your hands are clean and grease free when you're populating the CPU in. Difference between this CPU and AMD CPU of the new architecture of Zen or Ryzen is that this doesn't have pins in where the pins are situated on there, 1151, and on this CPU there's no pins at all. So if you drop it, it shouldn't break, but if you drop an AMD one, it will do. So this only goes into one spot, and then it's a mark right there, simple as that. Then you close it down and then the bracket will come off. That's stage 1 done. Now we're going to put in some thermal grease. So just a pea amount there. Now that stage is out of the way. Now we need to move on and put the bracket on so we can actually have the bracket to go on to the actual motherboard itself. We're going to do it outside the case, and then we're going to attach everything afterwards. So now just going to get these brackets here. This is for all of Intel's CPUs, and the AMD one's slightly different. Now there's a slot there, and I'm just going to slot it underneath. Then I'm going to get these little small screws that are included and screw it down. So that's there nice and tight. I'm going to spin it around, do the other side. Now the rest of the screws that I've got in the actual bag is what I'm going to use to hold the radiator and the top of the case. But at the moment I've got everything ready to go. I've got a clean surface, and now I'm just going to put this on the motherboard and get it ready. So I'm doing everything outside now. So this is how your water pump or AIO, or reservoir, whatever you want to call it, goes on here. Just make sure it's got nice firm contact. And I'm going to put the other screws on, screw it down. Make sure that you evenly spread out the tension of the screws. And this one's a little bit awkward. And just evenly distribute pressure on each side, but not too much. Just hand tighten. Right, so now we need to get rid of everything, but keep this bracket in case the motherboard's faulty. Then you need to put this back on. If you don't have this bracket onto your socket, they're not going to accept it, and it can come back and they'll say your pins are bent or whatever. So make sure you've got that. Just put it in the box that your Intel CPU processor came with, or even your AMD processor. Right, now we're going to place the motherboard and the radiator inside the case. Now the whole point about this is that you do everything outside the case, then you can get all the cables necessary out the way so it looks nice. But also your EPS connector is the only cable that you need to plug into the top there, or you've got a rainbow connector there as well, so you can put in your RGBs at the top. So I have an RGB connector, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do everything like it needs to be done first. So I grab the case, and then I'm going to take the case apart, and then we're going to just put everything inside. Now I'm taking the case side of panel off, which is where the bracket goes on. This is a nice bit from Thermaltake. It's quite weighty. So as you can see, you're working with how much cable management you've got to work with. So I can see that I've got basically a finger and a width and a half to go around the whole back. I can place an SSD here, or I can place a couple of 5.25 inch hard drives, which are mechanical. Or you can put in a mechanical that's only a smaller version there. So this is my SSD caddy. And as you can see that I've got a hub here, and this is all ready for PWM fans. So it's all out the way, and that's pretty cool. And then I've got all my headers from the front of the case right here. So I'm going to move this out the way as well. And this is the thing when you talk about cable management, because what you want to do is just move everything out of the way and then go individually into each cable if you can, and make sure it's nice and tidy. Now I've got a box in there, so I've got to unscrew that off as well. So I've got extra space if I take these caddies out. Now I'm not using these caddies, so I'm going to get rid of them. So I've got more cable management space. So what you need to do is move that other screw out of the way. Get all your screws out that you want. So I've got some rubber grommets as well. Have a look at that, what they are for. And you've got some extra tempered glass ones in case you lose any. So it stops it from like cracking or scratching the glass. Move them out of the way. Now we've got standoffs. So find your standoffs. And then for the screws, you want to find out which ones go into your standoffs. So those would be the right ones, and those ones won't be. So these would be like for your power supply, and the other ones will be for your SSDs and stuff. As you can see, it has an ATX for ATX, micro ATX, and mini ATX. Now this is what this case can actually fit in there. And I'm going to put that into the back because that's where all my cable holes going to look nice and stuff. So I've got a normal standard ATX and I'm putting my radiator here. Now before I do that, I want to strip down the case a little bit more so I've got all my room to like actually put stuff together. So I've just pulled this off. So you pull that off and it's got all of these clips on here, and it doesn't break it, it just needs to come out. And you've got RGB strip there, so just be careful not to break it. And you've got a cable that's linked to the top. Now I'm going to have to pull the top off. I'm guessing the top's probably the same. So just undo the top like so. And as you can see, it reveals the top for me to obviously do the radiator and put it in. I'm just going to put it back in there for 1 second. I'm going to put the case down like so. So now I've got easy access to everything. So just to make sure that we've got enough screws for the ATX, I'm going to have to put in some more standoffs. Right, so now you've got the retention bracket. Just make sure that you got it the right orientation. So that's where my mouse and keyboard is, and a couple of USBs, and that's what it says on the other side. And obviously audio's on that side. So you just put it in. Without the cable getting in the way, and it should just fit in just nice and snug. It doesn't always happen though, trust me. So what I'm going to do, I took this fan off because it was giving me trouble, so make sure you got it at the right side, and then I'm going to place this motherboard in now. I should have enough space on there. Then I'm going to get my screws, screw it down into the middle of the motherboard so you've got a bit of leverage. Right, now you can start doing all the other screws. Doing from inner to outer. So now I'm just screwing back the exhaust fan. So all the heat from the MOSFETs and VRMs can go seeping through the back. Now I'm going to feed these to the back, which is the fan, the pump, and the RGB connector, make it look quite nice. Just tucking it underneath there, get the fan, put that down there. We're going to do the rest with these as well. Now, whoa, be careful not to drop it like I nearly did. Now just screw this on to the back. That's what I like about Thermaltake, there's a nice little gap there so I can screw it. Now I've just got to turn it up on its top. So now I'm going to remove the top cover. Get another 2 screws. Just screw it to the top, no problem. Just to see all my cables are out, so I've got 2 PWM fans, should have another RGB strip, so there's 3 RGB strips and 2 PWM right there. So now I'm going to use a fan extension here, and then I'm just going to plug stuff in. My RGB strip, I'll do that last. And this is for the back of the Thermaltake fan. And this is a DC one, but you can still plug it into PWM connector. So I'm just going to plug it in. Then I'm going to plug in a PWM, plug in another PWM. No, this is a DC actually. No, that's the pump. And then the other PWM, which is here. And what I could do is I could plug it in onto here, or I can plug this straight into the motherboard. It's just what I'm going to do. I've got one more extension there. So what I've done is I've plugged the cable straight in there, which is connected to all these fans that are up here. So it's straight into the CPU, then I can regulate it from there and have all the fans going really quiet, and the pump as well. And I've had this right there. No M.2s that are in there at all. So now I'm going to just place this at the bottom, and as you can see on the case it has no shroud, and I'm going to have the power supply facing down. There's enough room like that, but if it's in on carpet then just be wary, because obviously when you're buying a case you don't want the dust to go in there and static electricity and stuff. So then I'm just going to slide it in. I'm going to get the screws. Right, so with this case, because it hasn't got a shroud, I could easily just plug in everything to the front there. Normally you would plug everything in there, but I am only using a 1 graphics card, so I need to find out exactly what I need. So my graphics card, GTX 970, I need 2 6-pin connectors, I need 1 EPS connector, 24 pin, and SATA and power, and then I'm away. So this is my EPS connector. And this is for my graphics card, so I've got 2 8-pin on there that's split to 6. I've got another one there. So I need one for my SSD and one for power, which I've got a Molex and I've got SATA, so I'm ready to go. So what you do is, we're going to do this the right way. We're going to get the connectors first and stick them in there to where they need to be. So this is PCI. Now we're going to put in the drives. So just put one in. And the last one, which should be the EPS. And that goes to the top where it says 12 volt rail. Well, it doesn't say 12 volt, but it says 12 volt PA. Let's plug that in. So every case that you get, you can just do it the normal way. Now you've got the cables all there, then I'm just going to screw the 4 screws onto the back. And it's got nice little standoffs there, so it's even higher than what it should be. So BeQuiet give you 4 screws or 5 screws. Just screw it to the back. Technically you only need 4 screws. That should be sufficient enough. gonna get the graphics card. Find out where your graphics card's gonna sit. Now I'm gonna put it here because this is 16 times bus speed on this motherboard. Where you see there's lesser silver bits, that means it's 8 times bus speed. And obviously the one that's at the cover of the motherboard more is 16 times. So I am going to put my graphics card here. This is the slot. So I've got to take out 2 and 3 slots. And then what you're going to do, you're going to guide it from the back there and then glide it into the PCI slot and then make sure it just goes click and it's in. And then we're going to screw this back into place. I'm just putting in 1 screw for the now because if I need to do any testing I can easily get it back out again. Now we're going to find the VGA cables or power cables. So my graphics card's here, so that's where I'm going to pass the cables through. Trying to keep it nice as possible. Plug the VGA graphics card in and plug in the last one. So my UPS connector's at the top here. I'll turn it around. And that's it. I'm not going to lie, it's not very easy to always get the EPS connector in, but it's in. Now I'm going to get the other cables from the front. So first off, USB 3, find out where that goes, and I'm going to place it here. Stops you from breaking anything. Now I've got USB and the audio connector into my hand, and power and reset for the front. Should be able to guide it through underneath here. So HD audio should be down here, and that's the one where it's got a blank at the top right hand corner. And the USB is the one where it's got a blank on the top left. Or was it top? No, sorry, top bottom right. There should be another. So there's another 4 ports there, and then there's a port here as well. So I'm going to just plug it into this bottom one here, depending on where my SSD goes. I could plug it there, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to put it towards the back. So basically, you've got like these little notches here, and that's where it's going to fit into the holes. There we go. So it just looks nice. Now we're just going to screw it onto the back. So I close it back on. Now I've got enough room to plug it all in, which I'm going to move the cables out of the way. Right, so now you've got to deal with cable management, but I know not, well, the majority of you don't like cable management or even know how to do it. But with this case, this has got minimalised cable management, so you just have to make do what you've got. And I've got a power connector for that.